What's up, space pirates? This is your captain, the Dread Pirate Dr. Disaster, and I have to ask, what kind of a moron does one have to be for someone to be surprised by this number here? How completely out of touch with reality does someone have to be to feel shocked by the player count of Star Wars Outlaws on Steam?
Do people not like me?
Everyone knew that this was coming, but for some reason, this is where Ubisoft finds itself. Apparently, they did not expect the player count to be so low for their buggy foray into a galaxy that a majority of people no longer give a rat's ass about. They couldn't even hit 2,500 players, which is absolutely laughable. But rather than do what successful people do when faced with adversity, the scumbags at Ubisoft are apparently blaming the transparency at Steam for their shortcomings. So they're daring to be unhappy with Steam.
I dare anything! You're a moron!
Gee, why is it that people don't like Ubisoft? Why is it that their stock price is in the shitter and that every time they release a game, it completely flounders? Every time they open their mouths, they prove how anti-consumer and out of touch with actual gamers that they are. It sounds as though they don't like that Steam makes the player count for their games available, which only makes sense if you understand that Ubisoft is a company that wants to trick people into buying their games, and once you've bought it, then they don't actually care if you enjoy the games because they already have your money.
Oh, Vesper, don't bet! Ah! No.
Fool you!
If there's anything a business like Ubisoft hates, it's letting people see how unpopular they are. They rely on FOMO, on the fear of missing out with their big-name franchises in order to survive. I'm convinced this is one of the primary reasons they originally left Steam in the first place. Companies like Ubisoft have veered so far away from what gamers want in their games that permitting people to see how bad their products are performing on the market kills them. Once again, they are trying to lure you in with the familiarity of IPs that you recognize. Anything that jeopardizes that is their kryptonite.
Come, let me kiss you.
Alright, me hearties, make sure you hit that like button on this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Plenty of you have been doing that lately, which is why it is time to ask the obligatory question.
How many assholes we got on this ship anyhow?
Yo!
We are currently sitting at 93,000 space pirate a-holes in this Buccaneer crew, and the custom on this channel is that with every 1,000 subscribers, I add a new ship to the fleet in order to house the newcomers. This time, one of you recommended the Normandy SR-2 from the Mass Effect series, which can be seen flying around here. If you have any suggestions for future ships, make sure to drop them into the comment section and I will add them to my long list. Super Chats get bumped to the top of that list with the other Super Chats, and don't forget that we are marching closer to 100,000 subscribers, which is when that incomplete Death Star in the background will be finished. But anyhow, thanks for being a part of this, people. I really do appreciate it.
I knew it, I'm surrounded by assholes.
But anyway, let's talk about this crap that we've got going on with Ubisoft. This is the sort of company that simply will not do any soul searching when they experience failure, because the thing is, you have to have a soul in order to search it. Gamers will never forget how they told us we should be comfortable not owning Ubisoft games. It was one of the biggest wake-up calls the gaming community could have, and I would argue that that comment from Ubisoft was actually one of the biggest reasons that gamers have become so galvanized against the forces that we're fighting against this year. Anyhow, let's read about Ubisoft's little hissy fit against transparency in this article from smashjt.com, link in the description. Ubisoft now pressuring Steam to remove player count tracking after historic Star Wars flop. A wild new, rumored leak from an insider to the Fandom Pulse exposes Ubisoft's dissatisfaction with Valve and Steam for displaying concurrent player counts on its platform. Currently, this transparency is readily available to all through Steam's tracking tools for third-party websites like SteamDB. Even worse than that, for Ubisoft's purposes of hiding stuff from the public, is the fact that these sites, like Gamealytic here, track the actual sales on Steam. Not just the player count, but the sales. As you can see here, Gamealytic estimates that after its launch weekend on the platform, that Star Wars Outlaws has about 30,000 units sold, which is pathetic, of course. And to top it off, Steam provides its own space for players to review the game so you can see what people who actually played it think. And gamers on Steam typically do not respond kindly to the sort of game-breaking bugs that happen in Star Wars Outlaws. But anyways, reading on, the article says, the problem with the transparency on Steam is that it publicly embarrasses the performance of many of Ubisoft's titles, like Star Wars Outlaws, to gamers, journalists, and investors. Everyone, much to the company's dismay. According to the insider, Ubisoft is now actively seeking to pressure Steam to discontinue its player count tracking. Ubisoft and other companies want to pressure Steam to stop the tracker from giving out info they want to keep to themselves. The insider explained that the concern stems from Ubisoft's desire to control how its game's performance metrics are presented, especially to investors. They want to be able to present findings to investors so they can make it sound good. The insider alleged that their efforts here are tied to the underwhelming sales figures, with Star Wars Outlaws reportedly failing to reach 2 million copies sold, a massive shortfall given Ubisoft's own admission that AAA games require significant sales to recoup costs, upwards of 4 to 5 million to break even. And it's amazing that we are in that sort of world, where they need to sell that many copies of a game just to make their money back. But these major AAA studios are generally spending $250 million on games, which might not even include the marketing costs. So, in order to recoup these massive expenses, they have to try to sucker in absolutely as many people as possible. And the thing is, once you've forked over the money, it's generally too late. As long as you've played the game long enough so that you can't get a refund, after that, Ubisoft does not care if you enjoy their game. In fairness, they probably hope that you like it, but it isn't necessary. As long as you've already paid for it, that's what they really care about. And see, with these sorts of games that Ubisoft makes, perception is everything. They need to perpetuate the illusion that their games must be played. Along with their buds in the access media, they carefully cultivate a sense of massive popularity to make it seem like their stuff is something that you just can't afford to miss out. That's why, for example, it was reported that Star Wars Outlaws back in August had the largest marketing campaign in the history of the company when it came out, because Ubisoft realized two things. First of all, that this game is a piece of shit, and that people will not be convinced to play it based on the product itself. And secondly, they realized that the Star Wars IP was, at least at one time, about the most powerful franchise in the world. It once commanded attention with every product put out with the name attached to it. But they've reached a point at Ubisoft where the people who made that company what it was are now gone, and the people who have replaced them have been installed not because they know what they're doing, but because they say and think the right things, and or because they fill DEI checklists so they can meet their quotas. So these days, when they create shoddy products, their best hope is to lean on the name that those who came before them created. And the problem with Steam is that it undermines the narrative that Ubisoft and their pals in the Access media attempt to cultivate, that their games are wildly popular. But I'm gonna leave it there. Drop some mockery of these chicken shits at Ubisoft who don't want us to know how bad they're failing. Drop that mockery into the comment section below, and we will talk there.
Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your captain is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.